Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 disappeared with 239 people on board. This started the biggest search ever in aviation, but the plane was never found. Recently, a scientist has come up with a new theory. He thinks someone deliberately hid the plane deep in the Indian Ocean, not just that it ran out of fuel and crashed. What if the real story of MH370 is more shocking than we thought? Keep watching as we reveal the layers of this mystery. Just when it seemed like the mystery might never be solved, Vincent Line, a brave scientist from Tasmania, brought new hope with a bold claim. He thinks the plane wasn't lost in an accident. Instead, he says it was purposefully sunk deep into the Indian Ocean, specifically in a place called Broken Ridge that's more than 20,000 feet deep. As we explore Vincent Line's troubling theory, could it lead to a new search or uncover a darker plot? Stay with us as we delve into what might be hidden in the deep, dark waters of the ocean. According to Line, the crash site wasn't random. He believes it was a very remote area known as the eastern end of the Broken Ridge. This spot is incredibly deep, around 6,000 meters, and surrounded by steep, narrow edges and high ridges, making it a perfect place to hide something as large as an aircraft. Line is confident in his findings, stating that, based on scientific analysis, the remains are likely resting in this hidden underwater location. His research calls for a new look at the case, suggesting that the mystery might finally be understood through science. But this wasn't the only surprising part of his research. As he delved deeper, more unexpected details came to light, each adding a new layer to the story of the disappearance. The attempt almost worked, but the right wing hit a wave. This event, along with the regular satellite communication checks by Inmarsat, became crucial discoveries that were celebrated in the Journal of Navigation. Mr. Line, who is connected with the University of Tasmania's Institute for Marine and Antarctic Studies, mentioned that the damage to the plane's wings, flaps, and flaperon suggested it was deliberately brought down into the water, similar to what happened with Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger on the Hudson River in 2009. This well-known location has an incredibly deep pit, plunging down 6,000 meters at the eastern end of Broken Ridge. It's set in a dangerous and wild part of the ocean, famous for its rich fish life and newly discovered sea creatures. The pit has steep sides and is surrounded by towering underwater mountains and other deep crevices. It's filled with fine layers of sediment, making it a perfect hidden spot. Mr. Line pointed out that this area should be explored as it's of great importance. He also mentioned that the decision to search this spot is up to the authorities and exploration companies. However, from a scientific perspective, it's clear why past searches failed, and the science strongly suggests this is where the plane lies. He concluded by saying that, scientifically, the mystery of the disappearance has been solved. But even with all this information, there's still a lingering uncertainty. The science might be clear, but the final confirmation remains out of reach. Imagine a situation where everything we thought we knew about the disappearance was suddenly thrown into doubt. What if the plane wasn't lost in the areas where search teams have been looking? Recently, a surprising claim by a movie producer suggested that the aircraft might be hidden deep in the Cambodian jungle. Could this really be true? Could it finally solve one of the most puzzling aviation mysteries of our time? Adding a new layer of mystery to the story, a former chief pilot from Malaysia Airlines shared a troubling perspective during an interview with Four Corners, an Australian investigative team. This discussion was featured in their Amazon Prime documentary called Lost. The story they presented was chilling. Someone on board had deliberately turned off the plane's transponder at 1:21 a.m., a device crucial for communication with air traffic control. Many experienced pilots agreed that this action was no accident. Steve Budigan, a former Boeing pilot, emphasized the importance of the transponder. He explained that it plays a vital role in sending key information, like altitude, speed, and flight path, to controllers on the ground. He was firm in saying that there would be no logical reason to turn it off on purpose, and it would be extremely unlikely for it to happen by mistake. Supporting his view, Nick Hland, another former chief pilot with Malaysia Airlines, admitted during the investigation that he wasn't sure who turned off the transponder, but he stressed that this deliberate act was central to the plane's mysterious disappearance. These new details have added a layer of intrigue to the fate of the plane, leading to more questions about what really happened in the cockpit, who was responsible for deactivating the transponder, and why they did it. The story took an even darker turn when Four Corners revealed that around the same time, the in-flight entertainment and backup communication systems were also disrupted. This pointed to two troubling possibilities: either a deliberate act by the crew that led to a crash or a catastrophic fire that overtook the cockpit. With this new perspective on MH370's final moments, we now pivot to explore other unresolved aviation mysteries that continue to perplex the world. But this wasn't the worst part. These unsettling discoveries have left many wondering what really happened on that tragic day in 2014. To make things more complicated, another piece of the puzzle emerged when investigators reported finding an older crash site. Cindy Hendry, a volunteer from the satellite imagery company Tomnod, made an important discovery shortly after the disappearance of MH370 on March 8, 2014. Her find has since become a key part of one of aviation's most baffling events. She identified what looked like aircraft wreckage in the South China Sea. Sadly, her discovery was initially ignored as authorities were convinced the plane had crashed in the Indian Ocean. In the new Netflix documentary, MH370, The Disappeared Plane, Hendry spoke about her relentless search for the truth, driven by the haunting memories of the family's pain, which gave her a strong sense of duty. Living in Florida, Hendry used her sharp eye, developed through her photography hobby, and her work with Tomnod, a platform known for analyzing satellite images. She recalled the first images she reviewed, describing an endless stretch of ocean, an expanse of darkness with nothing to see, until she noticed something unusual, a patch of white that could be the clue everyone had been searching for. With strong determination, Henry spotted a large area of white debris floating in the South China Sea near Vietnam, right around the last known location according to radar data. As she looked more closely, Henry found a piece that looked like part of an aircraft's nose cone. A cold chill ran through her as she realized it could be from the missing plane. Driven by the urgency to share her discovery, she tried to reach out to the investigative teams and Malaysia Airlines. But her messages seemed to disappear into thin air, leaving her feeling frustrated and ignored. Even though she strongly believed in the importance of her evidence, her attempts to bring attention to it were repeatedly dismissed. The Malaysian authorities eventually stopped their search in the South China Sea, swayed by data from the British company Inmarsat, which suggested the plane most likely ended up in the vast waters of the Indian Ocean. Henry's discovery, as significant as it was, seemed destined to be overlooked in the larger story. But this wasn't the worst part. As new evidence comes to light, the story takes an unexpected turn, forcing us to rethink what we thought we knew. The idea that the plane, once believed to have crashed in the open waters of the South China Sea or the Indian Ocean, might actually be hidden in a dense jungle changes everything. It disrupts the accepted storyline and leaves many questions unanswered.